Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Traci Scheepstra, and this is Body Talk. Embodied Learnings brings you Body Talk because we're committed to bringing the body into the elementary classroom and into the curriculum. We do this because we believe it supports student learning, student engagement, mental health and wellness, and for thriving classrooms and school cultures. Now today we're talking about something very important. We're going to be talking about mental health and wellness. On Thursday, January the 28th, in Canada, it is Bell Let's Talk Day. And to help us talk about mental health and wellness, I have two educators. I'm so happy to welcome Lorie Shook and Brooke Kewley. So thank you so much for being here today.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now, before we get started talking about mental health, I would love for each of you to just share a little bit about yourself for our viewers. So whoever wants to
Lorie, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, I can do that. I'm Lorie Shook. I'm school support counselor. I'm at Eagle Heights Public School in London, Ontario. It is the largest elementary school in the valley, and it's just me. I'm the only school support counselor there, so I'm run rugged. I love my job, love the kids. I'm also a registered psychotherapist, art therapist, child and youth worker, and professional. Yeah, got it. Yeah, I think I got everything. Okay. Trauma and loss consultant. That's what it is. Yeah. Wow. So I'm busy.
You are. I did not know you were an art therapist. That's very interesting.
Yes, professional. Yeah. Yes.
Wow, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thanks, Lorie. And Brooke.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Brooke Kewley, and I'm a single mom of 3 kids that are getting older, almost 13, 11, and 9. And I've been teaching at Southwold Public School for 18 years. I've kind of tried every grade out, and I think I found something that I really love, and I'm a learning support teacher now, and I also do prep in the arts. So I did my degree in sociology and art, and so I enjoy passing that on to my students. I also run an inclusion club for students who identify under the LGBTQ plus spectrum. My daughter is transgender, and I'm very passionate about just being a support for kids that need that support, and that's why I love being a learning support teacher.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, you both bring so much experience and knowledge to what it is that we're going to talk about today. So the first thing that I wanted to ask is, what changes have you noticed with teachers and students since the start of the pandemic with regards to mental health?
I'll start off. Because I'm a school support counselor, I work with exclusively, well, I shouldn't say exclusively, but mostly with the kids, the students. I also have supported staff when they needed to. I have noticed that when we were starting to do remote, people were like, okay, we've got this is okay. You know, this is different, learning curves a lot, but we've got this. Kids the same. It's a different feel this lockdown than it was in the spring. So that's vital to understand. And Brooke can probably talk a lot more to that from the educational piece, but I found this time it's more, there's more cabin fever. There's more, I'm having a really hard time keeping my child engaged because the educational piece is more intense. The kids are needing to be, it's like a full day of school, and that's what it is. It's online learning, as in the spring. Brooke can speak to this. It's different. We're finding not just the students and the teachers, we're finding the parents as well. I'm doing a lot of support for parents as well.
Yeah, I agree with Lorie. It's very different this time around. This is not emergency learning. This is full remote learning. And I mean, as a parent trying to help my 3 children while I'm, running a PDT meeting is challenging. And I have a lot of conversations with families, and I mean, we all share the same feelings. There's a lot of people who are feeling overwhelmed right now. I was enjoying being back at work, and I think the kids were enjoying being there, and the protocols didn't matter. They were willing to do whatever it took in order to feel normal again. And kids need that connection. So they are enjoying the fact that we have Google Meets daily. They look forward to it. All of my grade 7-8s are on time. And they look forward to that time to discuss and show off their pets and just talk. They need that talk time. And those kids, you know, as you know, teenagers need that socialization, and I have to give them that before we even talk about learning. Like, this is, let's just share, let's talk. And I think staff need that too. When I came back, you know, my office was a drop-in space for staff, almost more than students, because people needed that connection again. And you can't replicate, like, you cannot make this the same when it's virtual. You just can't. You need that in person. And my students even said, we kind of forget how to communicate in person. Like, we feel awkward doing that.
And I noticed, even as a school sport counselor, that prior to even lockdown and prior to any of this, with their social media, they're more comfortable in that realm than they are face-to-face talk. I do an awful lot. I mean, prior to all of this, I was doing an awful lot of mediation with students when they have peer interaction issues. And it was okay. And I get them together and I teach them how to talk to each other, because they didn't have a clue. And no one in their world was teaching them how to do that. So there was that awkwardness and that silliness. And it's like, hey, it's okay. It is foreign, and it's okay to feel silly and nervous and awkward. But it's important that you let the person know, and we work this out. So once I knew that was okay, it was good. But you're right, Brooke. The electronic technology is not a replacement for that face-to-face.
No.
I mean, it's okay. Thank gosh this happened now, as opposed to when we didn't have technology. That would have been right interesting, but it just isn't a replacer.
Right.
There was an interesting article recently that came out in the New York Times. I think it was last week, where it talked about how online usage for youth and children has really doubled, and how, again, and I know my son is now 21, but even in his age group, when he was a teenager, that was really the start of the trend of socialization, was through video games. So they would come home from school and they'd reconvene, but on the computer. And we found it really difficult to say, listen, you only get that much time with your friends online, and then you need to meet them in person. And of course, we were able to meet in person. So I can really see the shift now, where there is that disconnect and that isolation, where at least being in school in person brought children together, whereas being separated and online really just perpetuates that disconnect again. But I loved what you said, Brooke, about how important it is to actually create the time. Even though we're online and we're supposed to be learning, part of that learning, part of that actual social experience is the social aspect.
And I think, like, as a mom, I have constant guilt about how much screen time my kids actually have. But, they plead and they say, Mom, like, this is our chance to talk to their buddies on Fortnite or Roblox, whatever. And it's a weird time, because normally I have more restrictions. And at this time, it's like, you just feel so guilty and you want them to have those connections. And that's how it has to be, unfortunately. And my daughter's on TikTok and Snapchat, and she's messaging people and checking in. But I don't think there's any other way, really.
And that's all normal. That's the norm for the kids nowadays. That's what they would be doing anyways, right?
Yeah, but I noticed my own kids are even saying, like, we feel like we need a break from this. Like, they feel, you feel your anxiety level climbing, and they know they need to just get away from it and get outside, or, even just watch a family movie is a different feeling than that interaction, right?
And I think if we're lucky, I think, and I'm hoping, and this is what I'm guiding my parents when I talk to my parents, that we are doing that. We're going to have a shift from so technology dependent to getting together and bonding with your parents, with your siblings, with, you know, your friends, even when we can, you know, when they get back to school, like in September, when we got back to in-person learning, it was a whole different feel. Those kids were thrilled to be back, that they came back in our school for sure. Like they were thrilled. Yes, we had protocol. Yes, we had cohorts and they couldn't cross cohorts, you know, but they were so glad to have that in-person feel again.
Yeah,
and I think
the
we
staff
take things,
felt the same.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We take that, we have taken a lot for granted. And I think this is a good wake-up call for every one of us, because, you know, there's stuff that has been taken away that we never in our wildest dreams would have thought, you know, that we couldn't do.
Right. I know, like I was talking to my students today about mental health, and a lot of them were sharing some, you know, pretty personal information and about like, we lost a family trip to this cottage or to Great Wolf Lodge, and really that's what matters to them right now, how many disappointments they've had. And so I said, okay, well, let's think of something we can look forward to, you know, because that's what they need is hope.
Yep.
And we all need hope.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's lots even as adults taken away. I mean, I just lost a very dear, profound friend of mine, and I couldn't go to a funeral, say goodbye to her, nothing. Right. Not a thing.
Well, I know. And my dad owns and runs a funeral home. And so I grew up in the business of death. And he said, it's so heartbreaking, you know, when you have to put restrictions on who can attend your funeral. He's been in the business for almost 50 years. And he just said, this is horrible for people because, you know, this is the closure that they need in order to cope. And they're not able to gain that. No. And I think, you know, we need, as I said, that human connection is vital.
On a brighter note, though, because I am a positive person, we are learning. No, I am. Some people say, how do you find the silver lining? I do. You know, I find that some people are problem solving. One of my colleagues, her daughter is making fantastic videos of herself and how she feels about remote learning. And yes, some kids can't handle it, but I'm liking it. I'm thriving. My teacher's wonderful. And these are the things she's doing. And she's doing all the artwork, it's amazing. This little talent is coming out of her where, you know, she may not have had that time prior to do that or even discover that. So there are some really wonderful things. And I know that sometimes the media and sometimes we do paint this as a horrible, ridiculous time and how, you know, how horrible it is on us. Yes, I'm not taking away from that, but I'm also saying that it's also can be a wonderful time. And it's a lot of it is for us, as adults, it's so vital how we look at this particular time because our kids are looking to us. We're the rock. And if we're going to be anxious and chaotic and angry and whatever about this time, they're going to be out of sorts too, which will only add to our stress. If we are, you know, I'm not saying we can't have those emotions, for sure, let's have those emotions, but we need to be able to separate adult from child, because child cannot understand and relate to those emotions and those feelings. They have their own. And when we have those and we're not the rock, we add to whatever they have on top. And they can't handle that. That's far overwhelming. So we have to be very careful. And so when I talk to parents, I talk about what are you doing for you? How are you looking after you? Because you're the rock. I'm not saying you can't break down. I'm not saying that you can't be anxious. I'm saying you have to do that on your time, not family time, not with the kids' time. You have to be strong for them, because I know that my parents were very strong people. But as an adult, I know that there were times that there was obviously issues. I didn't know a thing about it. As an adult, I do now, looking back. But at the time, not a clue. Right. I was allowed to be a child and do what I had to do. They worried about whatever they were worrying about as adults. And that's vital for us. That's vital for us.
Yep.
What's interesting is there's so many things that are coming up as I'm listening to both of you. And Brooke, you mentioned about, you know, how students talked about what they felt disappointed about. And you said, what can we look forward to? Which really, you know, matches what you're saying as well, Lorie, about how it is that we stay positive. And I think it's interesting how at the very beginning, of the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty, and we sort of had to really step back in our life. But at the same time, there was this moment of, wow, look at what it is to be in a more simple way, and to really just slow down and take stock and be with my family and children, and really look at what matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think more people are maybe a bit exhausted now. And so what's building is the resilience, right, of having to be patient,
Mm-hmm.
and really work through, okay, this isn't forever. So what do we have to do to kind of make it through? Because now we're almost at a 1 year stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, how do we keep bringing that positivity back? And I've been talking a lot with, friends and colleagues and family, even about right now feels like a time of self-care. And you even mentioned about parents. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
when those feelings of exhaustion or anxiety come up, where do we step back and find a little self-care? And how can we offer that to our students
Mm-hmm.
so that we kind of can continue to regulate those emotions and not get pulled into the swirl of, this is never going to end, or this is really negative, this is all bad. Because I also believe that nothing is all bad, and there's always a silver lining and something really beautiful that we can learn that always comes out of these moments that feel difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
just rounding out all the things you've said so far, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Already articulated very beautifully.
Yeah, I totally agree. And looking for the little things to look forward to. And I mean, we talk about that at school all the time. And it's not the big trip to Paris, it's let's think of little things every single day that we can be grateful for. And I mean, at school, when we were there, they loved more outside time. So my kids were earning points, and they were staying on schedule, and they were on task, and they'd earn points, and we'd have more outside time. And I didn't make it structured. I'm like, let's hang out, let's chat, let's sit around and talk. That's what they want. They want to socialize.
They need to process.
And,
they need to process themselves.
That's a reward for them. They love that. And they love that the structure of the day. They miss that structure. And I think, as teachers and as parents, providing that structure, you still have the same bedtime, and you still have the same wake up time and meal times. Kids rely on that. And I think a lot of parents are struggling with that a little bit. And it's so important. I'm speaking as a mom right now, but it's very important.
You're right. That structure and consistency is the foundation for trust and security.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. And I tell my parents that. I said, as easy as it is to say, oh yeah, stay up, whatever, then you're creating a problem on the other end. You can't get them up. Mm-hmm. And so if you stay as best you can with that routine and structure, these kids want to know, like Brooke said, she's right on, she's bang on. These kids function so much better when they know what's coming up, when they have the structure, when they know what's expected of them, even though sometimes they balk at it. I mean, they're kids, we all did it too. But they learn to respect that knowledge of what to expect.
Yeah, like I found, like a lot of them told me they feel not motivated. They don't feel motivated. They don't have the energy or drive to complete assignments or stay organized.
Mm-hmm.
They just feel very overwhelmed, just like adults do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when I was in the classroom, and I try to do this in my Google Classroom as well, is I really try to structure my days, and I'm only with them in the afternoon, and almost every minute is accounted for, so they know what to expect. There's no surprises. All of my kids that struggle with anxiety know what's coming. And to tell you the truth, my kids that are struggling with anxiety are doing the best online.
Yeah, it's the truth.
They are doing so well.
I agree. More about that,
like I feel like they don't have other people around them watching them as they're working. So they're not self-conscious. They can turn their camera off, turn their mic off. They can respond in the chat if they feel like it, or they can stay on for 5 minutes after everybody else leaves to question things then. Everything's laid out for them. And I walk them through every detail, and I email their parents too to keep them in the loop, but they are doing marvelous.
Wow.
Some are, yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you, Brooke. I have a young boy that normally face-to-face, in-person learning, it is such a battle for him, and not because he doesn't want to do it. It's just because he's so anxious. He feels he can't do it.
Right.
And so it's a challenge for him, and he's so courageous doing it. But he has just flourished in the online. So like I said, there's such a scale. There's a scale of kids who are doing great and functioning well and problem solving fantastically. Then we have the middle ground where we have these kids who say, I'm dealing with a family where, I have a couple of the students, well, my parents aren't getting me up, so I'm going to sleep, and I'm going to let them know school starts at noon, and I'm just going to do whatever I want when I want, and then busted, then Miss Shook calls and you're busted. And it's not so fun. But it's like, if they can find a loophole, they will. And then there's these kids who are so social that this is brutal for them.
Mm-hmm.
This is so difficult for them because they are missing that social that they thrive on.
Yeah,
so we have a whole scale.
It is true. I agree. I agree. Some of them, they want to just stay on and chat at the end sometimes. And I said, yeah, let's stay on for 10 minutes after and show and share here, family pets and artwork they're working on, or mostly it's the girls. They want to just stay on and chat, but I'll monitor that, and they need that.
Yes, they do.
So if you noticed that this year in particular, with all of these changes, that actually you're connecting more with your students than perhaps you had before. Like, I know I would get a sense that connection is really important to both of you.
Yeah.
But would you say that it's really shifted in a way because you're really responding? Like, I know for me, teaching online is obviously very different than teaching in the classroom. And I've learned so many things. And it's heightened things for me that were important before, but have been raised to another level. And I'm wondering if that's happened for you as well.
I feel like I've been let in on a little secret other side of some of these students that, I didn't really know existed. This like wonderful other side of, I certainly believe children are very capable, but I'm like, wow. And some of these kids aren't getting any home support, but they're all of a sudden showing me this other side of their personality that I didn't get to see in the classroom, or even that they are so much more mature when they're on their own versus in front of their peers showing off, doing silly things. I get to see that too.
And for me, because I am the school support counselor, I see them in a different light. I don't see them in classroom. I see them one-to-one or small group. And so for me, it's more brutal for me, actually, because I am an in-person person, and I know my kids. I know every kid in the school. They know me, whether they're on my caseload or not. I'm just that kind of social person. So this has been, I see what Brooke sees all the time. I see that. I meet kids where they're at because I'm able to. I don't have a whole class of 32 or 28 kids. And so that's the connection that I miss. So, and it's really tough to have on the phone because some of them are so sick of the computer Zoom stuff. They don't want to be on it. They really don't. And so they'll talk to me on the phone because it's different, but I'm missing my kids because I'm talking to the parents and I'm shoring the parents up, and I'm saying one day at a time, find the small successes one day at a time,
Yeah. And Lorie, from a learning support teacher, I mean, I get to see kids in a small group setting too.
Yes.
And
yes, you do.
Those are my kids that are really struggling, my kids that have learning disabilities that are used to getting that one-on-one support, and doing it virtually is so tricky. Like I had an hour meet with a child today, and I think both of us were just kind of like, we're not getting anywhere here, and I'm trying really hard, but those kids you need to sit beside, they need to really, it's building that trust and that relationship in order to, help them understand. And I mean, we'll get there, but I'm not there yet.
But you know what, Brooke, it's one step at a time. Again, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to take the parents, because you know what's wonderful about this, and you will learn this in your role, is even though you don't think you're doing anything special and it seems like Groundhog Day, every single thing you do is effective and helps. It's like a brick on a brick on a brick. You know, if you're building a wall, you're like, oh my God, I'm doing another brick and another brick and another. And then when you stand back, you see, oh my gosh, I got a wall here.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think they know that the support is there at least, right? You know, they know
Yes,
how to
there's
find
a ton.
that support, right?
Yeah.
So that's important.
That was one of the other questions about the support. Like we have, it's a matter of having the kids go to that. We have links. We have so many things. We have our social work attendants and school support counselors who are touching base with all the kids on their caseload. I'm doing it every single day of the week because my caseload is fairly big, and it takes a while to get through my list of families. But we have links for mental health. We have links on all kinds of things, mindfulness and let's talk links. All kinds of stuff. We have the wellness link for the Board of Ed. It's mental health and wellness, and it's in for the students and for the parents. And it's in our portal for the Thames Valley District School Board, and they can find resources. They can find all kinds of activities. If these kids are bored and they don't have a thing to do, they even have things that they can do. There's listed things underneath the student one where they can, do breathing exercises or do resources on activities that they can do and all kinds of stuff. I just actually sent out to my department for the Love of Art. That's an art gallery that does a wonderful work here in Westmount, and they do kits. They put together kits for kids, and they do online, so we get that social. It doesn't have to be just within your school, but it can be within the community where they do art. It's like a paint night, virtual paint night sort of thing. And they do ceramics and drawing and painting and all kinds of stuff. And it's just wonderful.
Well, that's neat. I think, I had, a couple of families reach out in crisis, and I connected them to many resources in the St. Thomas area. And there is a lot of people who their caseload is full, and it's unfortunate that our school board doesn't have, a school support counselor at every school, because it's certainly in a dream world would make things better for kids, because our door is, there's a long line waiting for support, and they just need someone to talk to. And it's just heartbreaking. Our social worker is worked
overwhelmed.
So overwhelmed. And how many referrals can one receive? And the schools are, if money could be spent this year, and, obviously we have a new math curriculum, and so there has to be training and support with that. But this, to me, was a priority to get a school support counselor in every school. That's where the money needs to be spent, in mental health and wellness. And there's families struggling and children struggling, and Laurie, that, and I see it way more now daily, because of the role I'm in. But I think once we go back, something needs to happen. And I value all of the links and everything, but when families are at the point of,
they won't go to them. That's
that point, they can't even, they're overwhelmed by the number of links. And I'm overwhelmed by the number of links, because I receive 3 emails a day about new COVID protocols, as everybody else does, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm not even reading this till I'm actually in the building. I can't even process this information right now.
Yeah,
right. And then there's a new math link, and there's a new reading comprehension link. And I just no, I'm going to just shut this email down, and I'm going to just focus on what I know how to do.
And there you go. There's your self-care, because
and that's what I do.
Yeah, Brooke, it's true. I'm the same. I have my principal, who's a wonderful person, sending me all this updated, and then my boss is sending me all the same stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I have colleagues weighing in on it. And it's true. You have to know where your limit is. And that's something I have learned personally. I'm still working on it. But in the spring, I would sit in front of my computer, and Brooke, me, I am not a sit in front of a computer person. I'm all over the school.
Nor am I.
Right. And I'm all over the school, and I know all the kids, and I'm in and out of my office. I'm not an office person. So when we moved to in-home learning in the spring, I sat here from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like, oh, lunch. Yeah. Oh, what's that all about? I better have some. Oh, I know, Brooke, but that's me, right? Yeah. And then I started to seize up. My muscles have all seized up. I'm like the Tin Man. I need oil because my whole body has taken a hit physically because of COVID.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm really glad that we had the conversation, one, about all the links, because one of my questions was, do you think there's been, better support? And while we have lots and lots of resources, it can be incredibly overwhelming for families that are just really need answers and need conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really need that person who can give them the support. So I'm really glad that you brought that conversation up, because that was something that I was really curious about, sort of where is the support, where is it working, where is it not working? And I think you really touched upon that. And I wanted to talk about teachers too, and whether teachers feel that they are getting the support that we need, because I think as teachers, we give to
It's yours, Brooke.
Right? So Lorie, you just talked about you're sitting for hours and you realize, oh my goodness, I haven't moved from this computer. Like, where's my time? Where's my self-care? My body is getting sore, perhaps breaking down. That's something that embodied learnings we talk about so much, like that self-care of the body is our whole connection to our life. And if we're not well, we cannot be able to do anything for anybody else if we're, exhausted, in pain, not taking those breaks.
Yeah, I can speak to the teachers that I know, and most of them are so fantastic, and they're willing to try anything new. I mean, if there's training for something to do with technology, they'll learn it, they'll figure it out. But they are burning themselves out, burning out, and it's changing their personality in that, they're struggling, they're fighting with their kids more, or spouses. They're working double what they normally do, completely. And I think the public's perception now is very different of teachers than it was in earlier, because I mean, we just came off of, strike action and or work to rule, and I mean, the public did not hold us in a positive light, and I think now they're starting to recognize, because they can hear us coming into their homes, into their living rooms, they hear our voices talking to their children, and they see and hear that compassion and what we are really doing. We didn't receive training, we just had to click a link and learn it ourselves. There was no training. It was all COVID protocol training that we received. Like, that was it. So you figure it out. Here's the links. Here's some resources.
Good luck to you.
And no time.
Set up a schedule.
No time. It happened like overnight.
Yeah, and figure it out. And by the way, this time you're going to be synchronous learning for 225 minutes. And last time it was very different. So I think teachers have done a very, a wonderful job.
Amazing job.
Figuring this out. And we're sharing resources. We've started different virtual resource sharing sites through social media. People are texting, and I think everybody's willing to help each other out, but I do see a shift, and I've never heard so many people say that they don't want to be in this career anymore. And it's sad, because scary. I think most teachers are in it for the right reason, and they care about the kids, but they cannot physically or mentally do this much longer.
I have a friend that works in Upper Grand in the Catholic School Board, who said in December she saw burnout rates that they would normally see at end of June. And again, so many people that I know who are in positions, within schools teaching full time or administration are, again, feeling the same, just absolutely exhausted. And I know that at the university level, for me, I feel like I'm working double the amount that I have in any given time in my career. And it's the same, just utter exhaustion. So it's, it's certainly a lot, but I also hear you in that those that are in it are doing the very best they can, like are willing to, you know, will keep going and willing to do whatever it takes, because ultimately we really care about our students. But to what end, I guess, is really at what consequence. There's a limit that we each have as human beings, where we reach a certain capacity where your brain just can't, you know, think.
Do more.
Yeah, and I think I try to tell myself daily that
I think she's just frozen for a moment. We'll let her come back.
She's doing some self-care. She froze.
Oh, there she is.
A little frozen, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. As long as you didn't get kicked off. That happened once in an interview. Someone got kicked off completely. I was like,
this is what happens where you live. When you live where I live, you have occasional internet slips.
Yeah, no problem.
No, I think it's just reminding that this is our career, but and for many of us it's our passion as well, but there's so much more to us than that, right? And absolutely. And I mean, my kids are still young and they need me a lot, and so I have to make that a priority. And I mean, I certainly don't think I'm giving up a lot in the teaching world or anything like that, but I'm sure there's a lot more I could be doing to enhance my lessons, but I'm just not there right now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a day by day, you know, you take it as it comes. And I always think about intentions. And I think if our intentions are to do the very best we can for our students, and also to do the very best that we can for ourselves, that's all we can expect. And I say to my students, whether you think it's the best that you know you can do is irrelevant. It's what's the best you can do under these circumstances. And I really believe that the intention is there, and we have to be really kind to ourselves, you know, really have self-compassion that these are very unusual times, and it's okay if we have days where we feel like I just didn't have the motivation, or I just didn't have the answer, or I lost my patience, because tomorrow's another day.
Yeah, when I'm talking to parents, because I get that from the parents, I can't take this anymore. I have to take my child out of class tomorrow. Good, do that, because I don't want your child to feel forced. They'll get caught up. And here's something that I tell my parents. I say, you know, kids are resilient. Yes. They're resilient. They will pick this up. They're not behind in anything, because everybody's going through this at the same time. We're not on the same page, but we're all going through this. Everybody is. Adults, kids, elder, everybody's going through this. And I said, kids are so resilient. Yeah. The most important thing is that we are solid as best we can be. And that's vital for those kids. Those kids will pick up and run as soon as they're back to normal. I say the same about the teachers. The teachers, they are brilliant people. They know their jobs. They care deeply. They'll get them back on whatever track everybody seems to think they're off. I always say that to my parents, and you can hear the stress level go down. It's like, oh God, thank you. I have parents actually who say, you're my best friend. And I don't really, I mean, I know them, but you know, I'm just calling them weekly saying, hey man, how's it going? And how are you doing? And what do you need? Do you have any questions? That's all I'm doing. It's as easy as that. On their end, it's like somebody cares. On my end, if they start giving me lists, it's like, oh good God, shut up, Shook. But you know, because my job gets like harder, but that's my job. That's what I do. And so to be that, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? 9 times out of 10, I hear, yeah, we're fine. Or, you know, I have a question about this and that. And so it is vital. And it's vital for our school, because these could be families that got accidentally missed. Or these are the families that, you know, weren't quite sure about what they were supposed to do regarding getting a device or whatever. So I'm kind of, I mediate between those families with needs with our school, so no one gets missed, you know. And I'm in concert with the teachers as well doing that.
I mean, I really believe that a universal need we all have is to be seen, to be heard, and to know that we matter. And so just to say, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
How can I offer support? Whether that's, you know, talking to the parents on the phone, or again,
the students,
you know, Brooke, in your class, like, I'm going to stay, we can chat after, or let's talk about how we feel. And I really think that those are the things that have to come first.
And
absolutely.
And I think regardless of COVID, students, kids, they don't remember the content of what they learn. It's not the content, it's the people, right? It's their teacher. They remember
how you dealt with them,
how that person treated them. And
absolutely,
that's all that really matters, right?
I mean, I remember, sorry.
No, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. What Brooke just said, because I can give you an example, because I had a young little guy, high anxiety, separation anxiety, horrible little episodes all the time. Mom couldn't leave the school, whatever. And I remember holding him back and making him say, and then that was in grade 2. And then he left our school to go somewhere else, and then came back in grade 7. And he was absolutely thrilled that I was still in the school. And he said, oh, thank God you're here. Oh my God. I said, you like me? Because I used to try and keep you here in grade 2. And he goes, I don't remember that. I just remembered that you cared. I just remembered that you would talk to me. I just remembered that you were funny. You're right, Brooke. They don't remember like we do.
No,
they don't
so
come
who
from
cares
an adult
if they
filter.
miss the War of 1812, you know, in grade 7 history? They can look it up. Like, they really need to know that you cared, and you know
that you're solid.
You are engaging them in learning, right? And it doesn't matter what it is you're teaching them.
Yeah,
I mean,
not at all.
Whatever.
Relationship,
we'll get through it.
And
it doesn't matter.
Relationship and connected and being connected is vital. That if you got that, everything else comes after.
Right.
I mean, then you can reach them. If you don't have that, you can't reach them. And you could be the most phenomenal teacher or phenomenal therapist or phenomenal whatever. You don't have connection, you have nothing.
And this is what I teach teacher candidates.
Yeah, and that's why, you know,
you've got to start with the students first.
Absolutely. Connect first.
And events, eventually when we can have events again, you know, those big community and school events are going to be so important, right? To build those connections and way more than ever, you know, like the big barbecues and bringing in all the resources in the community. And, you know, I think families need that again.
And I think it will be a time of great joy when we do that, where people will, it may have been taken for granted before because it was something that we just always experienced. Whereas now it will be really celebration. And that's
genuine
thing to look forward to is just that celebration and community and coming together.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. I have loved this conversation and learning from you, and just the experiences that you have had and the ways that you connect with your students and the stories you've shared. I don't know if there's anything else that you were thinking as we were talking that didn't get said that you think should absolutely be said before we finish.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well, it's been just phenomenal. I hope that those that are watching, you know, just as I was listening, the one thing I hoped is that any teacher or teacher candidate that is watching, that if they've had any sort of anxiety themselves about not doing enough, not feeling like, you know, they're kind of bringing it all together, that listening to you, they will just sigh with relief and go, oh, so you know what, I'm okay. Like I'm doing okay. I'm doing the best that I can. Because I think we all need to hear that.
Yeah. If you're doing the best you can, what more can you do?
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to do very well. If you're doing the best you can, continue.
Yeah.
Because again, you don't know how you're affecting those kids. And if you're on and doing the best you can, these kids they have this radar of knowing who is able to and who's there for them and who genuinely cares. They know they're going to see that you're doing the best you can, and they're going to appreciate it and respect it. They are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lorie and Brooke, thank you so much for taking part in Body Talk. I am just so grateful. And I look forward to all of our viewers watching this interview. And if you have any comments, we would love to hear from you. If you haven't visited our website, it is www.embodiedlearnings.com. And I look forward to seeing you again. I wish you all well. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.